Ben Horowitz was looking for a sales head for his software company Opsware. Until now, nothing was going in his favor when it comes to sales. He had already worked with the three sales head in the last 3 years and now was looking for the fourth hire. Importantly, his next mistake of hiring a sales leader would be his last mistake. So he started taking interviews and realized he could hire Mark as his new sales head. But there was one problem. No one in the Opsware management was confident about Mark because Mark was exactly the opposite of the stereotypical sales head. He never went to top school, was of average height, and was the square guy that was as white as he was tall. So what did Ben do? Did he choose to hire Mark Rani following his insight, or did he drop the idea of hiring Mark Rani? Let me tell you the story of hiring Opsware sales head. As I stated at the start, Ben was trying to hire his fourth sales head. He was wrong 3 times earlier. Not only that, but he also tried working as a sales head, but that didn't work either. So he was desperately looking for someone to handle the sales for his company. While taking the interviews, Ben followed Colin Powell's instructions, that is, hire for strength rather than lack of weaknesses. As Ben was previously responsible for sales, so had understanding what strengths were required in the new sales head. After interviewing almost dozens of candidates, he resonated with the Mark Cranney. He exhibited the strength that this position requires. But as I mentioned earlier, he was not your typical sales head. Actually, it didn't look like the sales head. Ben was asking multiple questions to which Mark Cranney was answering superbly. But while asking questions regarding training, Bill was taken aback by the response. Ben asked, once you hire a candidate for the sales team, what do you expect from them? To which Mark answered, I expect them to understand and follow the sales process, expect them to master the product, expect them to I expect them to accurate in a forecasting. To which Ben asked, tell me about the training program you designed to achieve this. Just listen to the Ben's words. What was his response to Ben's question? When I asked training question to Mark, I'll never forget the pained look that came across his face. He looked like he wanted to get up and leave the interview right then and there. I felt like offering him aspirin or maybe Abilify. His reaction surprised me because he had done such an excellent job to that point. I later realized that for me to ask Mark describe the proper way to train sales strips was like asking Isaac Newton to explain the laws of physics. After what seems like a 5 minutes of silence, Mark reached into his bag and pulled out a giant training manual he had designed. He said he could possibly explain what I needed to know about the training in the time we had left. But if I wanted to schedule a follow-up meeting, he would explain the nuance of the training salespeople to be elite across a broad set of disciplines, including process, products, organization, selling. At this point, I knew I had my guy. So it is clear that Ben liked this guy very much for his clarity and mastery of the things he knows. But he was facing a simple issue. Unfortunately, nobody in the management knew how talented Mark was. For them, Mark was someone who didn't fit the bill of typical sales head. So in the board meeting, every member of the executive staff and every member of the board of the directors voted thumbs down on Mark Rani. Ben did ask his mentor Bill Chappell about his opinion on Mark. He said, I won't lay down on the railroad track to stop you from hiring Rani. That was the response Ben was expecting. So one of the reasons which surfaced predominantly was not his lack of strength, but the evidence of weakness. Like Mark went to relatively unknown college, he did not look like a sales head, etc., etc. So Ben needed clarification about what to do. So he decided to dig deeper and ask Mark to give him his reference. And to Ben's surprise, Mark handed him a list of 75 references. He said he had more if Ben was interested. Ben called every reference and realized Mark was tightly networked, and almost everyone called him back. As he was completing the task, someone from the executive team called Ben to say that her friend knows Mark Rani and wants to give a negative feedback. Ben immediately called the reference and asked his opinion about Mark, to which the reference said, "Don't hire Mark Rani." Ben asked, "Why?" "He is the bad culture fit for any organization." "Can you explain why you think so? Do you have anything to back your claim?" "Yes, why not?" So we did invite Mark to give a talk to the new sales hire. On that day he came and started his talk by saying, "I don't give a fuck about how many years of experience you have. The thing that I care about is how much business you bring at the end of the day. That's it. That's what I care about. Nothing more, nothing less." "Okay, is that so?" asked Ben. "Besides this, do you think Mark is not a good performer?" "I don't think so. Rather, on the basis of my experience, he did very well in his jobs and consistently achieved his targets." "That's great," said Ben, and thanked the reference for his opinion. After the call, Ben was convinced to hire Mark. His logic was very simple, that the leadership required in the wartime is different from what is required in the peacetime. Possibly Mark is not a good option at the time of peace, but Ben was looking for a wartime general who could lead the sales when nothing was going in their favor. In the time of war, you generally give little importance to the factors that otherwise can create a great havoc if implemented in a peacetime. So that's how Bain goes against almost everyone and hires Mark as the sales. So what did we learn from this story? Number one, it doesn't matter if everyone is against you, you can still make a decision based on your conviction. Second, hiring parameter in a wartime and a peacetime are different. So someone who is a good fit in a peacetime can be a bad cultural fit in a wartime and vice versa. Third, a person should be only judged based on his ability to deliver. That's it. Thanks for listening to this point. And if you love what I'm doing here, then do subscribe to my channel for more such interesting stories.